My name is Tim Steed. I'm the Assistant General Manager here at OCEA. Work with our leadership, our staff, primarily on campaigns, building strategic power for workers, and a lot on our political program. Been with the organization 18 years, so I'll be one of the presenters today, and I'm going to kick it over to my boss, the OCEA General Manager, Charles Barfield.
All right, thanks, Tim. Let's get this party started. And first and foremost, as Tim said, I'm OCA's general manager. Going to have had the honor to be in this role since 2019. And yes, how do we get things started in a real joyful mode? Look at this guy, right? How cute is that? So no one can be upset with someone like that. Thank you to all the stewards and county folks who have joined us. Not just to repeat, but yeah, we're in the middle of December. We're approaching Christmas next week, and you took the time to dial in, to get some information, get updated, right during the holiday season. So thank you, thank you. Tim and I are going to bounce this back and forth a little bit, but we should hit everything pretty darn quickly. We'll talk a little bit about our negotiations preparation. Tim will get fairly deep into the survey results. We'll show you and talk with you about what does 2026 timeline look like, and then of course we'll open it up for some questions.
Hey, real quick, CB, just so folks know, on housekeeping wise, if you have chat, will be going to Kevin, our admin, the OCEA Zoom. So to just kind of keep it into one single spot. So if you do have any questions as they come up, just put it there, and then at the end we'll kind of go through them.
Perfect, and Kevin can triage that as they come in. Okay, so let's take a quick look back. Well, how far back do you want to go, CB? I want to go back to 1937 because that's when OCEA was founded and with really one and only purpose, and that's to advance the health and welfare of county employees and their family. And for nearly 90 years, we all have stood together to continue that mission, not just staff but stewards and county employees alike. For decades now, we have fought for every single right, every single benefit, every single protection that is in your MOUs. You all know that rights and benefits are not just handed to us. We have to fight for them, and we've done that for nearly 90 years. Most importantly, though, we have fought to give you, the public employees, a voice so that we can stand together and fight for what's important. And in exchange for your service, right? Your hours, your blood, sweat, and tear of service, we've demanded respect and dignity on the job. Just an opportunity to share in the success of what we have helped build. But has it always been that way? No. If you go back decades, the ranchers who ran this county, they were in charge, right? And their donors, they fed that system and and rewarded their special interest. Like when politicians caused the great bankruptcy of 1994. What happened then? The people in charge blamed you, blamed our members, and they even tried to cancel our MOUs, but we fought back and wouldn't let them do that. In 2010, the politicians in Costa Mesa wanted to privatize the entire city and outsource all of our jobs. We fought back and we won. During 2020, during the pandemic, while many of you were taking care of the public health of this county, what did the county executives want to do? They wanted to strip your wage increases out of our MOU, and we wouldn't let them. We fought back. Every single step, we have fought back to preserve your dignity and your contributions for Orange County. We've been fighting for public servants this entire time, and we'll be ready in 2026 to keep up that fight. We are union, We are public servants. We built Orange County, and that's right, all of us, we are OCEA. So let's take a quick look before we get into preparation on what does our current MOU provide. We're nearing the end of our current MOU. It expires in June. We are in that third year. This MOU has provided 13% total wage enhancements. We were also able to restore a two-step merit increase that helped hundreds of our members. We were able to accomplish a supervisor salary differential that helped hundreds of our supervisors. And yes, multiple enhancements, multiple victories, and no takeaways. Well, that was good timing, Tim. So, part of our preparation, check this out. I want to show you a couple of our leaders. And first and foremost, on the left, look at this handsome guy. This is Rich Lopez. And this is during the 2025 budget hearings where several of the OCA leaders showed up to testify on behalf of our membership. And in this case, Rich was pounding down the idea that at some point in time, we got to be ready for a PEPRA only world because the percentage of PEPRA retirement eligible folks is far outpacing the legacy folks. On the right, look at this. This is OCA's first vice president, Maria Corona. Now, what is she doing besides bragging about her presentation skills? Well, what she was really doing was conducting a site visit. And you can see in the slide, it was the summer of 2025. We put on probably 30 site visits this year. And in this case, hundreds of OCA members showed up, got educated, and learned about what was to come in this negotiations campaign. We also do our research. And every single negotiation cycle, we conduct our research. And we don't do it alone. Yes, we do our own research, but we also employ Harvey M. Rose, which is a forensic accounting firm who specializes in the public sector. So when we just don't simply take the county's word for it, because guess what we hear every single negotiation cycle? We got no money. Some of you have heard me talk about several years ago the county approaching $800 million in reserves. Then it became $1 billion in reserves. All of that is true, and we verify that through Harvey M. Rose. Now, every public agency in the state of California has to publish an annual consolidated financial report each fiscal year. And this last fiscal year, which closed in June of 25, they have to post this report by the end of December. So we will ask Harvey M. Rose to pull back all of the both neighboring counties and the larger counties throughout the state to really dial into what is the county's financial picture. So locally, we do our research, right? And we monitor what other jurisdictions are getting in their MOUs as well. So we look at the regional market. And the top line here shows our current MOU, that 13% that I mentioned. Recently, Ventura, they settled, and you can see what they settled at 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. So that looks like that's 10.5 over 3 years. And then I want to just show you Los Angeles County, which was 7% plus some lump sums over 3 years. But look at how LA County is patterned. They got zero this year with a $5,000 lump sum, 2% next year with a $2,000 lump sum, and then the 5. But that 5% happens in the ninth month of their last year. So they only get that 5% for 9 months of that year. So it's important to see how things are patterned. And you also see San Diego there. So we will continue to monitor this and provide this information to our members as we start our negotiations campaign. So, what really starts that campaign is the survey. So, Tim, talk to us about the survey.
Thank you, CB. Yeah, thanks everybody. Again, Tim Steed, OCEA's Assistant General Manager. Um, So we're going to start by going into the survey results. You can see here, this year was an incredible showing from our membership. We had a total of 4,413 responses to the survey. This is a 53.4% increase from the last time that we did a negotiation survey. So that tells us something very important, that there is a lot of engagement. And I'm going to show you a quote here from a really good book. Highly recommend. Anyone who likes labor stuff, Rules to Win By. Um, but it's not just, as you see here from the quote, the contract survey is not merely a straw poll for setting priorities, but itself represents a tool for organizing, the first of what will likely be many structure tests in a contract campaign. So when you see that we've had 4,413 responses, we know that that's not just a straw poll. That's energy. That's folks telling us what their priorities are. Sorry, frozen right here. Sorry. So we know that as our members, and we've already told this to county executive staff and elected members of the Board of Supervisors, that the first stress test has been met, and OCEA members are active, engaged, and you better believe we're paying attention to what's going on. So what does that survey says, right? Survey says. So, we had some identifying questions, where you work, what's your classification, if you wanted to include that. But getting to the first substantive question of the negotiation survey, we asked, taking into consideration neighboring settlement patterns, along with budget uncertainty, what's a realistic annual wage increase? And as you can see, very close, but most folks were in the 5 to 6% column. Second most was 3 to 4, and then you can see there's quite a few other was sometimes it was more than 6%, sometimes it was 0.5%, sometimes it was just other suggestions. So you can see that, we're able to go with this data to the county executives, the decision makers, those that we're going to negotiate with, and say, hey, not only are our members fully engaged, but these are their priorities and where they feel economically. So we know that we're being given, and the whole negotiations team, clear direction on what the members' expectations are. Now, we also asked, just of all the items related to pay, what are the issues related to pay that matter most to you? Not surprising, general wage increase was the top. Kind of, hey, if we're going to get pay, I want it to go to my base wage increase. But we also wanted to know if there were other ways, that we might be able to enrich the value of our next MOU outside of a general wage increase and see where our members' heads were at. So you can see most of the membership, maybe increasing the amount of steps that you could earn after you've been topped out. Um, do we, look into longevity pay? Just last week, the city of Anaheim reached a tentative agreement with their union. Throughout that tentative agreement are enhanced longevity pays for people who have been there 10, 15, 20 years. We also know in other cities in Orange County, this is becoming a more popular way to, provide pay incentives to long-term loyal public servants. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Besides pay, what are the other items that are most important to our membership? Healthcare improvement, cost containment. 65% of you said that was the top item other than pay. Not surprising, right? How much of your, take-home pay is often eaten up by the inflation in the healthcare market. This is a problem vexing not only United States presidents, Congress currently, unions all over California and nationally. But even though it's a big problem, doesn't mean it's not something we're going to try to get our hands around. So finding ways to ensure that workers are finding relief when it comes to providing health care for themselves, and their families. Second, and this is a relatively new phenomena, but it's flexible schedules. I've been with the organization, almost 20 years now, and definitely oh, sorry about that. Definitely seeing the flexibility, being a more important issue with our membership. And flexibility means a lot of different things to different people. We saw from the, kind of open-ended part. For some people, flexibility is a pure hybrid schedule. Maybe it's a work from home. For others, it's just having the flexibility on their start time or end time some days in order to handle a family emergency or something personal. So we know that being flexible, giving workers the freedom when they're at work to be able to do their jobs but take care of their family is becoming more and more of an important issue for our membership. And then, also we have, items that were really high on the list, include paid leaves, job security. So all of these very, very important as we start setting our negotiations priorities for the year. But those weren't the only ones. There were a couple of open-ended questions that, right now our professional labor relations staff are going to be, chasing down each and every one of these answers. You can see, are there any benefits you currently lack that you would support adding? There's 1,700 ideas that we're going to go over. And then what are realistic changes that could be made in your workplace to improve your job? You can see that we have, close to 2,600 additional responses. Now, not all of these are necessarily going to make it to the negotiations table. Some of these items we might be able to handle outside of negotiations and just a workplace issue, some follow-ups, or other items might be outside of the scope of what we negotiate. But make no mistake about it, if you put a suggestion into one of these questions, we're going to vet it, we're going to research it, we're going to give it its due diligence between the staff and our elected union leadership. And then finally, we asked for folks to get involved with this process, right? So we either joining the negotiations team, which we had 222 people apply. If you have applied, you should have received some follow-up steps on what's going to come next. Join our union action team, host a meeting at the work site, or distribute materials. So definitely, now that we have 654 folks who have clicked these boxes who are going to help us build that power necessary at the work site to secure a fair contract in 2026. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, CB.
Thank you, Mr. MC. I was saying, yeah, that's a lot of energy. 654 people who are willing to help carry this energy forward once they've clicked a few boxes. And before I get to 2026 preview, some of the next steps that we took after the survey closed was we took your voice right into the 5 elected board offices to begin to inoculate them to what your priorities are, including the flexibility of scheduling and things like that. So we haven't stopped. In fact, this machine is continuing to roll through the holiday season here as we approach 2026. So I'm going to remind you that what happened in January 2025, and that's when I think it was on January 5th or the 6th, Michelle Aguirre sends out a letter that we're going to freeze everything. We're going to freeze spending. We're going to freeze hiring. Um, and some of you have felt that and throughout the year. But candidly, I just wanted to remind this group that even though they had a hiring freeze in 2025, the county hired 671 OCEA represented workers year to date. So we've worked through that. Is it softer? Yes, but it certainly was not frozen. You got a letter from Michelle last week introducing the strategic financial plan and how we need to tighten our belts again as we approach 2026 budget. Candidly, I was pretty disappointed in that for a couple reasons. Number one, there weren't any specifics in there. And secondly, some of you have already begun to hear from your department heads that um, the expectation is that each department cut 10% of their budget as they continue to build the budget towards July. As all of you know, the strategic financial plan is really just the jumping off point for the budget building process that ends with, by law, the board has to adopt a balanced budget. So there will be a lot going on between now and July that we will continue to monitor. What we need from our leaders in the workplace is for you to have your ears and your eyes wide open to be monitoring what is happening in your particular department in order to hit this budget target. Not every department is built the same. We have some that are very general fund reliant and others that are not so much. So the constriction that they are looking for as they build the budget is going to look differently from one department to another. The big thing in 2025 was the airport fires, and that was part of the announcement early in January of last year. The county has been really aggressively working on settling the fire claims, and there's quite a bit of optimism there that while the county set aside $450 million to handle these claims, the actual amount is going to be considerably lower than that. And also some positive news. OCEA was invited by Vice Chair Foley for a special briefing with risk management and her office to make sure that OCEA got the most up to date and accurate information regarding these claims. We're in the process of scheduling that, but hats off to Vice Chair Foley, who was seen recently wearing an OCA hat. Hats off to her to make sure that OCA stays informed. You know, that in January the state budget will be released, and so we'll be monitoring that obviously to be determined if there's immediate impacts that are part of the state budget. Certainly, the federal budget situation continues to be watched and monitored, so that's a to be determined item as well as we go into our budget building time frame. But what's going to happen in June? In June will be the June primary election. And we have three board offices in 2026 that are up for election, two of which may even be settled in June. So, District 4, which is Chafee, he terms out in 2026. District 2, which is Sarmiento, he's up, as well as the Vice Chair Foley. So we'll be monitoring this as we approach the June election. That is going to help set, who's going to be on the board as we go into the end of 2026 and into 2027 once we are past the November election. You might remember the Orange County Register in 2023 highlighting that every union in the county was up for negotiations in 2023. They coined it the Super Bowl of negotiations. Well, that was 2023. 2026 is going to be even slightly busier than the Super Bowl of negotiations. Well, wait a minute. You just said everybody. Well, there is a contract with another union that is currently being negotiated and probably will spill into the beginning of 2026. That's UDW and the home health workers. So, in addition to all the traditional county unions, including us, UDW will likely spill into the beginning of 2026. So it's Super Bowl plus another. So what do we have in store in terms of 2026 in terms of our timeline? As Tim indicated, 222 people checked that box that they wanted to be considered for the bargaining team. We're in the process of setting up those interviews and the selection. And we call it interviews because we will interview people who want to be considered. The bargaining team can only be so big. We certainly couldn't include 222 people plus OCA staff. So early in 2026, we will get that all buttoned up. As Tim mentioned, our professional labor rep staff and organizers will be calling through the 2,000 or so ideas and sort of proposal concepts. We will go through all of that and see what what items make the cut for proposals, and then later in the spring, right, from all the things I just mentioned, including the June primary, other unions, we will be pacing out what 2026 looks like in terms of when we actually begin negotiations. There's a lot at stake, and certainly the county's financial condition, the transition of a county CEO. Oh, a couple of elections. Yeah, 2026 is busy. So we haven't nailed down when we're going to start, but we will certainly keep our leadership apprised and the entire membership apprised as we start to engage the county. So I'm going to hand it back over to Tim, who's going to talk about more engagement.
Yeah, thank you, CB. And too, as we're getting a couple more slides here, so if folks, have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I already have a couple that have come through that we'll be ready to address. Just a couple of action items. If you do not get emails, home emails, we don't email to the work email address. But if you do not get home emails, there's a QR code. You might be watching on your phone, so that's not going to help you, but you can just go to our website as well. If it's not a good time to scan a QR code, but to get registered for those emails. And then also, if you want to receive updates to your cell phone via text message. Now, I want to be clear. We do not spam text, right? This is kind of the bat line for like a meeting today, right? We might utilize the text message, or if there's an urgent development during negotiations. But if you do want to receive those, kind of immediate updates regarding negotiations, just text the word negotiations to the number 94033. So negotiations to 94033. That'll get you hooked up there. Then also want to let folks know a union best strength is its strength in numbers. So if you are interested in wanting to represent your work location as an official county steward, just know that we meet once a month on the third Thursday of the month at both noon and 5:30. It's the same meeting, so you only have to attend one. The noon meeting is a hybrid meeting, so it's Zoom as well as in person here at the OCEA office. If you want to come by, have some fellowship with your fellow OCEA members. And then the 5:31 is virtual only. We understand folks work all across this big county, so sometimes getting to 830 North Ross here in Santa Ana is not doable, but we want to make sure you're active. And then also want to highlight the Union Action Team. Now, what is the Union Action Team? Once bargaining gets going, this is kind of a committee for members who are like, I want to help secure a good contract, but I'm not sure I want to be an official steward. Well, there's always something to do. There's always action. So the first Thursday of the month, we have a kind of a virtual meeting with any of those folks who just want to help with the contract. So think of it as kind of a steward in training or a part-time steward just around the contract. But the contract's the most important thing that the union does, right? It's why we exist. We exist to negotiate and enforce the contract. So if that's the only time you want to get involved, well, you better believe that there's going to be a space for you. So What does that also mean? We want to make sure you have plenty of information, resources. So check out our website. If you see on our OCEA website, there's a button that just says county negotiations. That'll be a repository of all things county negotiations, materials, and then that little image on the left. Go to our YouTube page as well, OCEA member, the Orange County Employees Association on YouTube. We have a playlist that's called OCEA University that has trainings on how do we negotiate? What are some provisions of the MOU, some trainings about our political involvement. Just a great resource if you want to build out your toolbox of kind of how the union is governed, how we build power for workers, and some of the obstacles that we face.